Hi, I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking to Donnie Boivin. Donnie is the CEO of Success Champion. He is a motivational speaker, and he encourages people on how to be successful. I obviously want to know what is a success champion? How does one become one? But I also know that he has a farm, so he does other work besides this business that he is promoting. So, how do we pursue one thing on the one hand while doing the realities of life on the other, where we have to have income, we have to have food on the table, we have to pay the bills? So, I want to find out how he meshes these two together. Join me today in my conversation with Donnie Boivin. I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Donnie Boivin. Good morning, fine sir, or even good evening to you. Seems like we're both getting
Actually, it's
tired.
afternoon, but we'll take it. I mean, I know we're on opposite ends of the world, but and well done in getting the last name right, dude. I like that. It's not a feat that a lot of people can pull off lately.
Well, I think I might have got it wrong in the introduction that I gave to you. So great. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
I got this. And then I was listening to a couple of things. I said, no, it's Bovine. Thank you, sir, for coming on here. And I know that you do a lot of these shows and you have your own podcast. And as I introduced you, you're the creator, CEO of Success Champion. Can you give us a little rundown, as you're well familiar with doing, of what you're doing now? And then I'd like to take you back through your
Mm,
career.
Sure. So, yeah, like you said, I'm the CEO of Success Champion. We help small business owners get out of their own way, and scale and grow their businesses. And we do that through a number of outlets. Our primary outlet used to be consulting, coaching in that avenue, but we launched Success Champions networking, and that quickly became our lead in business revenue source. So we bring together small business owners from around the world, and we believe we've 100% fixed what everybody hates about networking. So we have consistent meetings, high profile conversations in these meetings, with the entire center and focus on helping somebody else grow their business. So, Brian, it would be like totally diving into your world, understanding who's the best people to bring to your podcast or bring to your university, whatever I could do to
Hmm.
bring value to do, and understanding that I do that out of pure respect for you and what you do, and understanding that the universe will take care of me somewhere else. There's a lot of thought process around this idea of givers gain, and I hate that whole idea because it means I'm giving to gain, and I just want to give, right? And we built the whole business model around that.
I would like to come back to this in a few moments, but Donnie, when did it all begin for you? When, like, I know a couple
The
of things.
company or this whole
No,
ride?
for your ride of even back in the day, the
Yeah.
first job, maybe I go back to the one guy that told me he was diving for golf balls outside of his yard, or
Oh,
like
that's funny. I don't get to talk about that. So
what was, yeah, your first thing, even if you didn't make any money, but the thing that got you out of the house, maybe selling baseball cards or something.
mine, I mean, I grew up on a farm. So between ages like 6 and 11,
Yeah.
it was field work and 4-H and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't the guy, throwing the hay bales from the ground up onto the truck, but I was the kid sitting on the flatbed trailer, stacking the hay bales, 6, 7, 8 years old. Um, in between, me trying to go play imaginary games in the backwoods, to hide from everybody so I didn't have to work as often as I
It's funny
possibly
you
could.
say that because I had a similar experience, but you're on a farm, probably living 24/7. But I had an experience when I lived with my dad. And despite the hard work and disliking it, that was a great experience. Like the
You know, if,
idea of getting dirty, not worry. I can remember myself too, going out in the woods and
Mhm.
entertaining myself. And you think of
Yep.
kids nowadays, I went with a someone the other day and I heard the kid, we did all of these things and we were having coffee and snacks and the kids, I'm bored. And I really thought of myself in the woods, like just entertaining myself and getting my kids to get outside and play. And we have this little play area and they're like, oh, I don't want to. I'm like, there's a whole bunch of trees over there. Like, just go find something to do.
Right. It's funny because, my wife and I have a farm now, and, the nieces and nephews and their friends come to the farm. And my one brother, he has his farm and his kids have pretty much grown up on it. They live a farm life. My other brother, though, they're suburbanites, and their kids, grew up in suburbia. And God, I love all those kids. I mean, they're
Mhm,
they're they're amazing, and they're all getting older. I can't really call them kids anymore, but
mhm,
growing up, watching them, the ones that grew up in the country, dude, you were like, "Dude, get your butt outside and go do something." And they're gone, right? Easily entertained. And some of them may grab a book and sit in a tree
mhm.
or whatever else, but they're outside. The other ones, you'd say get outside, and it's like you shot their dog. I mean,
Oh.
exactly, and they get mopey, and it's not that they don't wanna do it, it's they don't know what to do once they get out there.
Mhm, mhm,
There's not, I mean, so we rented the house on the farm we grew up on, we didn't own the land or anything,
mhm.
and, it was a 500-acre farm that we were on, and so there was a lot of things going on all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and, uh, our punishment, was get put on a horse and go check the back 40, and you ran the fence line on a horse to see if a fence was broken or something, and I don't know, you spend that much time, and even back then you didn't have Walkmans, you didn't have phones, you didn't have anything you could take with you if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
yeah,
So you spend a lot of time in your own damn imagination. And
yeah.
you can get pretty freaking creative,
You can.
out there in the woods. And hell, I can remember playing with my best friend at that point. My closest neighbor lived over a mile away, just to put it in perspective.
Mhm.
And they had three boys. And of course, there was three boys in our family, and uh, their youngest and me became friends. And we'd be out there fighting dragons and
Yeah,
saving damsels in
yeah.
distress. And that was like a normal everyday occurrence.
Did you get a
And
motorbike?
no, we did. My oldest brother had some.
You got some?
Yeah, we got the piece together BMXs.
Yeah.
So all of our bikes were like
Mhm.
tricolored, you know, and you had to be careful if you jumped or anything,
Yeah,
because a time or two the handlebars just
tire.
pop right off. So, but I mean, we were hellions. We had a creek that ran the whole property, and we did what we called slippy slide, where you threw
Mhm.
buckets of water over the edge and turned that into a big mudslide. And um,
All
it-
those things to keep you occupied while being in a place where many a kids wouldn't find themselves nowadays.
oh yeah, I mean, I think you get more adventurous because there's less distractions to allow you to be more adventurous. So
Yeah.
next thing you know, a vine hanging off a tree becomes a rope swing, or things that may not have been the safest things in the world, but you get pretty creative in the moment.
No, it brings me down memory lane myself of finding trees that overhung so you have a ford or going out, being from Canada, ice fishing in a hut,
Mhm.
like cold, cold, freezing cold out on the Myra. And but having a little canister there, what are they called? The little heat furnace, heat lantern, and
Right.
inside this built thing and catching these horribly small little fish, but enjoying the time that you're doing it. And just those sorts of memories are fun ones to have. And what your memories bring up is the idea of hard work. So from you're saying from 6 to 11, you were doing this, and anything else after that, like in your teenage years?
Not really a whole lot in the teenage years. We did a big life move. So we moved from Kansas to Texas at that point. And so
Okay.
I went from farm kid to suburbanite. And it was a big transition.
Hmm.
All my clothes were hand me down clothes. I had glasses that were too big for me. So my junior high and high school years, we were some rough years.
Hmm.
Because I never really fit in. Most of my teachers, they looked at me, and a lot of them told me, they're like, dude, we're passing you on just so we don't get you back. And that's how I made through high school. My first job, I didn't have any
Yeah.
businesses or anything. My first job was 14 years old. I went to work as a busboy in a catfish restaurant. And this place was a catfish buffet, and it was dirty, just
Why at
dirty.
14? That's pretty young, because I thought you were gonna say you got up in the years and you were until 19, you got up, but
No,
14.
no, we
Why
always
did you
worked.
do that? Why did you get out and get the
My
job?
family's always been blue collar, so if you wanted it, you had to go work for it. Mom and dad were never in a place. I mean, my first car was a $500 truck that I bought myself. Um, and it was from working from jobs. And I didn't have the entrepreneur bug until I was 40,
Mhm.
um, but if you wanted it, you went and you worked for it. But I hated work, so it always was a weird conundrum. Is if I wanted stuff, I had to go work, but I didn't want to work, so I lived without for quite a long time because I just didn't want to work. Um,
Well, that's
you
a
know,
good lesson in itself, though. Like,
oh, it
a
totally
lot of
is.
people. I was actually speaking to my dad the other day, and we were just talking about work, and he had mentioned, I said, "There's lots of jobs," and just hinting at I might not have a job in the near future. And he's like, "There's always jobs, right?" And I totally agree. There's always something you can do to get a job. He goes, "If you're ever speaking to anybody who says they can't get a job, they don't want to work."
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. It was fascinating. Somewhere along my line of all the sales jobs and everything I had, I think there was at some point, and it may have been '08, that when the U.S. economy really tanked, and maybe the world economy did, but um, that I started looking for, like kind of these recession-proof jobs. What was that next adventure? And I remember stumbling across an article that said, one way to guarantee you'll never lose a job, and it was to be a short order cook. And the article went on to say that even inmates, when they get out, can become a short order cook
Hmm.
anywhere. And I thought it was
Hmm.
fascinating that no matter what you've done in your life, if you went to prison and came out, you could
Very
still go
true.
find a job. And in this day and age, so I agree with you. That was my point. Is I agree with
Yeah.
you that anybody can find a job, but in this day and age, with technology being technology, and with all the advancements and things we can do, there's never been a moment in history better for somebody to launch a business and figure it out. I'm not saying be a full-on entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs are just crazy as hell. But you
Hmm.
can be a business owner, which is a lot easier and
Yeah.
safer bet. you know and launch something on the side that and turn it into things. I mean, I love listening to Gary Vee from time to time. I can't listen to him too much, but he said it best though. He said, your 8 to 5 pays the bills.
Hmm.
Your 6 to 2 in the morning build your legacy. and
Yeah.
and if most people would suck it up and go get a job, even if they hate it, just get the income coming in and build something, they could find their way working towards some sort of business freedom.
What is it you started to build in your mind as you approached high school and were thinking about work thereafter?
That's a fascinating question. And the reason being is, and I've done a lot of backward reflection over my years.
Mhm.
In I never pushed myself in a traditional direction. I never had the idea to build something or create something. I always
Mhm.
just took what was in front of me. So,
Mhm.
my oldest brother had gone to the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
So my high school was shit. Not, I mean, the school was a good school, but I
Yeah.
was shit.
Yeah.
Um, the
So was I, just so you don't think I'm like,
right,
okay, okay. But
right,
for you to say I had no plan, right? I fell,
right.
whatever was in front of me, I just fell into it. That's
Yeah, and that was literally from the next 20 years from high
yeah.
school. Everything I did
Mhm.
was because it was in front of me. I never looked at it and said, "This is what I want to be when I grow up," or "This is what I want to do," or "Let's create this," or do that. I just didn't have that in my wheelhouse or my DNA. I never it not it didn't even cross my mind.
Mhm.
And every job I took, it was because the opportunity was there. I never, I've read Mark Cuban's book, and he talks about, his career is, if he wanted to learn a skill set, he went and got a job to learn that skill set. He wanted to learn sales, so he got a sales job. He wanted to learn computers, so he went and got a computer job. I never had any of that thought process. I
Nor
was,
did I.
let's just take the
I'm like,
job in
that
front of
sounds
me.
good. I
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
ever
like, yeah,
cross
reflection. You're
it.
like, that's a smart damn idea.
That should be a requirement in high school, reading books
Right.
like that.
No, but yeah, no, spent 20 years as pretty much a straight commission sales guy.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't even want to be in sales. It was funny, when I got out of the Marine Corps, um, I went to work for my best friend and his dad, doing heating and air conditioning. And that was my first kind of adult job after the Marine Corps. And, we're in Texas, where it gets up to 115 in the summers, and you're climbing around in attics that are 140, 160 degrees,
Setting up air
dirty.
conditioners where it tend to be cold and cool, and you're not.
Yeah, dude, and it's miserable. I have so much respect for the guys that
Yep,
do it, because that
absolutely.
work sucks. And I got to the point where I was like, look, this is not for me. This is actual real work, and I don't want to work this hard.
Mhm.
And so I was getting ready to quit, and Jerry, who was the boss, he walks up to me and goes, "You're about to quit, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yep, I sure am." He goes, "Before you quit, will you try something for me?" And I said, what am I going to try? He goes, "You're going to start sales." And I'm like, "What's sales?" And
Mhm.
he goes, "I'm going to hand you a stack of pamphlets. You're going to go door to door and see if somebody will let us look at their air conditioning system." And I had the two thoughts run through my head. One, I'm not going in the attic. Two, their houses are air conditioning. So all they got to do is go from my truck to their house,
Sign
not
me up.
understanding that they was going to drop me off in a neighborhood and I was going to have to go door to
Walk.
door, walk it
Walk
all.
it.
But I was like, sure, I'll try it. And that's how I really got my start in sales. And we grew that company to about a $3 million company, from, doing residential to commercial. But it all stemmed from, it was a lesser of two evils.
Mhm. Mm.
I didn't want to do the crappy work of crawling around in attics and getting dirty. So sales got me to a lesser of the two evils.
Donnie, I'd like to find out what you do now in your job, and that transition on how you got there. But you mentioned, and I knew that you also had a farm. So
Yeah.
when did that pick up? So you're doing two things while pursuing the one, and keeping
Yep.
the other, right? You're keeping your 9 to 5 while pursuing the one with all your might. How are you balancing those?
Well, so the farm happened in 2016,
Okay.
and I was at the peak of my sales career, um, and making phenomenal money. All the benefits. I picked up partner for a training company, um, and was in the process of looking at starting to buy them out. And a huge process and undertaking. It was a multiple seven-figure deal, over a 5-year period. And we were the farm came. I got, through my corporate America years, I
Mhm.
kind of forgot about farming. I kind of forgot about growing up in that way.
Mhm.
And as my career was really taking off and going, I started thinking about needing a place to get away from it all, right? Needing something that would allow me to escape the day to day, if you will.
Mhm.
And my wife, she hadn't grown up on a farm, but she's a huge lover of animals. She's been a vet tech, and, manages a huge vet clinic now. And so, my brother retired from the Marine Corps, and he came home here to Texas, and I'd already run, my crazy careers and all the stuff. And they, did the suburbia thing, for, about a year. And they're like, yeah, we can't do this.
Mhm.
And so they bought a farm first. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. My brother's not one upping me. So once again, somebody else does something, and
Yeah, yeah.
I went and we bought a farm. And
What did your brothers consist of, or what does he have on
so
his farm, and what is on yours?
surprisingly, a lot of the similar stuff. So they're both
Okay.
hobby farms for us.
Okay.
But we both do goats, sheep. He does sheep. I don't do sheep. Chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys, guinea hens, sugar gliders, rabbits, cats and dogs coming out of our ears because you got the inside cats and the outside cats, the inside dogs and the outside dogs, because you got to have, guardian dogs take care of all the sheep, all the goats and stuff. And then you got to have the inside dogs that are more, and they're all pets,
Yeah.
you know, they're all named, and we do sell them and, the whole nine yards. But it's, I mean, so if everybody wants real perspective, I'm up at 4 o'clock
Yeah.
every
I was
morning.
going to just ask you how much of this is
Yeah.
taking your time?
Yeah. So I'm up at 4 o'clock 7 days a week. Because as an entrepreneur, you don't really have a week, if you will. It's just the next day.
Yeah.
So up at 4 o'clock, I'd always do a workout routine. I read, I journal, and then usually about 5 o'clock, I go start taking care of the farm. So it's about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours worth of work taking care of all the animals and getting
Mhm.
everybody fed and watered and set up. And, you're checking the perimeter because, we got predators out
Yeah.
there. And then, you come in, shower, you jump in, and, you hit your first meeting. For me, starts at 7 o'clock most days. And then I run back to back meetings up until 5 o'clock, probably most times.
And this is
So
primarily focused on Success Champion.
yeah, there's also focused on success champions soon instead of 7 o'clock it's here. So here's a funny thing I think your listeners would get a kick out of. So my farm is so far out in the country that I can't get internet access out there.
Ouch.
They literally would have to put a 40-foot tower on my house and put a satellite dish on top of that to get internet out there. So I work off my brother's farm, about 8 minutes down the road from mine is,
Yeah.
but my parents built a cabin on my brother's property. So like right now, as we're having this conversation, I am sitting in the spare bedroom of my parents' cabin, right? And I
Nice.
run all of the Success Champions from here.
That's nice.
The funny thing about all that is, so I'm up at the butt crack of dawn doing all this stuff. Well, mom and dad sleep in. They're not early risers. They get up around 8 or 9 o'clock. Well, their day is just getting started. So I get second breakfast because I've already eaten my own
Nice.
breakfast.
Mom's
Now
making
mom,
breakfast.
yeah, mom makes me breakfast. And then, I end the day usually around 5 o'clock, sometimes a little bit later, and I have a beer with my brother and old man. We have
Yeah.
a shop out in the back we call the Yeti, and we go out there and watch stupid shows and
Yeah.
drink beer. And it's cool that I've built myself to a level of freedom that I can enjoy this type of lifestyle. But the day's not over. So no matter I've had a couple beers, it's going home, and now we got to shut down the farm.
Yeah.
So, you're 2 hours putting the animals into bed and, cooking, the dinners and everything else. And we have a rule in the household that all work stops at 8 o'clock. So I can't work on Success Champions. I can't work on the farm. My wife and I, we get 2 hours each night for us to sit down, kind of unwind. We'll watch something we DVR'd,
Hmm.
and I will respond to some social media and stuff, but it's not the heavy lifting that I do really between that 7 to 5 window. And it works really well for us. But because of this lifestyle, I get a lot of people come at me like, "You're a workaholic, you're the grind guy." No, no. Every Thursday at noon, 2 o'clock at the latest, my whole company shuts down and I go work the farm. My wife, she, is home, and we go work the farm. Any odds projects or
Yeah.
anything on there. And most weekends we're working the farm.
It's you're very, I wouldn't say workaholic because you're doing different things, right? And some is very family oriented, some is, for your farm and then for your business. So you're splitting it up in a way that it just seems very productive. You're making the best use of the time that you're
Well,
given.
and I always try to explain people, and they don't always get it, because people always want to tell you how you're living your life wrong, right? But for me, it's all a choice,
Hmm.
and I'm choosing to live this lifestyle, and that's what makes it awesome for me. Because I think freedom is the ability to choose to do what you want when you want, and there's still a lot of things in our lives that we're building towards to creating. But there's a lot of our lives. And I mean, I
Mhm.
think that a lot of people would really enjoy this lifestyle we've built for ourselves, simply because we really are living it on our own terms,
What
and
is Go ahead.
just and that's it. And it's it took me becoming an entrepreneur to finally start figuring out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And oh, by the way, that was 40, when I started figuring that out. 40 years. And they're telling these kids to figure it out in high school, and I couldn't figure it out until I was 40 years old. So
Well, that's that question. What do you want to be when you grow up? Like that I've learned most recently, right at
yeah,
43, that that's a pretty tough question to throw at a kid. I'm still
it
trying to
is.
figure it out.
Well, and it's because you got nothing to base it on.
I
I
want to be
mean,
a doctor.
right, a
Okay, go ahead.
lawyer,
Yeah.
but you've got no life experience.
Hmm.
And I'm 90% anti-college. I'm not completely,
Hmm.
because if you're going to do open heart surgery on me, I want you to be educated,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I, I really think you should let these kids do a couple of things. I think they should serve a couple of years in the military to get some freaking discipline under their
I
butts.
agree. Here in South Korea, it's mandatory, and
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 it
I
should
have
be.
people with their heads set. I'm like, it's unfortunate the situation that puts someone in to have to serve for 2 years, but I think it would straighten up a lot of the problems
Uh,
that we have.
and
Even
then
with myself, I think it
yeah.
would have helped me.
Well, and then after the 2 years, I think they should be required to do a minimum of 1 year overseas in another country.
Hmm.
And I don't care what country you're coming from. I think you should do a mandatory student type visa, and go see how the rest of the world lives. And for the US based folks, I think that would, help them get a better appreciation and a lot more gratitude for the luxuries we have in life. Um, and I think that would clean up a lot of the mess that we are seeing now in these days.
It'd be interesting if a country took that upon themselves and said,
Never happen. Never happen.
2 years in the military, 1 year, go whatever to whatever country you want. I
Yep.
mean, it's not a bad deal.
No, I mean, hell, as a young kid, I'd have signed up for that.
Rather than, I mean, from my perspective in my life, wasting decades,
Right.
right? And that's,
I don't know if it's considered wasting decades. Because I used to feel that way. I really did. I,
mhm,
I really am like, these kids are 20 years old and launching businesses now. Why didn't I think? And I really got on myself a couple times, and then I got to this realization that I couldn't have built what I'm building now without going through those experiences.
mhm.
And that's a really comforting fact, because it's the 20 years of sales experience that allows me to get on the stages and have the conversations that I've had, and speak to a lot of people that I've spoken to. It's the working for other people and hating it, being miserable, that's taught me how to be a better president and CEO in my own company, and treat people better. So there's a lot of experiences that I can look back on and go, I mean, hell, the networking groups that we launch now, I was doing networking groups, 14, 15 years ago, you know, and now I've got an entire company dedicated to running these and
Networking.
building these, I mean, so it's fascinating when you start looking back on your life experiences and start going, how can I use that thing and
Don-
move it forward?
Donnie, thinking of your schedule, because I can almost can't get over how productive you are. What is some, are you going through some of the days like, oh, I gotta feed this, or I
Oh
got
yeah,
this,
oh yeah. Don't
some
let
of the difficulties?
yeah, don't let me sound like a Superman by any means. There's mornings where a lot of times I will wake up before my alarm, but there's some mornings that 4 o'clock becomes 4:30. I'm not gonna lie, because
Yeah,
you're like, oh crap, I just got woke up by the alarm.
yeah,
So I've been known, not often, but every once in a while, to set
yeah,
that extra 30 minutes
yeah.
on there. And here's what I have to often remind myself is, if I get tired, take a freaking nap. If my head gets too filled with crap, go
Yeah.
take a walk. That is the one luxury that I love having a farm,
Mm-hmm.
is at any given moment I can go walk to back acreage. And I'm in the woods with paths and trails. I mean, it's like a damn park, if you will. So it gives you a really cool chance to clear, your mechanism of all the crap going on. But I know our entire world and everything we do is run by routines already. Everything we do is a routine, from
Mm-hmm.
how you wake up to how you go to the bathroom, how you eat, how you go to sleep, how you watch a movie, everything's some sort of weird ass routine.
Routine.
Yep. So it's understanding that and picking the right one. So I'm a morning person, but I'm not a 4 o'clock in the morning person, right? That is something I had to completely learn
Yeah.
to do. And the reason I started getting up so early is because as my days were getting crazy, I didn't have time. And I
Yeah.
was finding myself not reading the books, not journaling,
Mm-hmm.
not doing the things that I needed to do to keep my mind growing and learning. So the only option I had is, I'm not a night person, so I wasn't going to stay up later. So my option was to get up earlier. And so it's understanding that for me to change as an individual, I have to change.
And
And
adjust.
something,
Yeah.
yeah, and for me, it was changing the routine.
Adjust into the routine that's necessary. Donnie, what is, I mean, between a farmer and a success champion CEO, what is a tool that you use that is most essential to keep you efficient
Um,
and productive?
my answer is going to be funny because it's not necessarily a tool, it's a team.
Very
So
good.
something I
Yeah.
learned early on with the business is, your team, one of their jobs is to hold you accountable. And this was
Mm,
fascinating thought process for me, because I grew up in an era of, your job was to shut up and do what you're told. And that's how you got promoted, you know. So the idea of holding my boss accountable would never even cross my
mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have people that just geek out on whatever it is that they do working for you, you can step back and see a clearer vision of what you're doing with the company. And the fun thing about that is, now they're holding me accountable to what they need me to do so they can get better in their jobs. So it may be write a blog post. It may be, go to this meeting. It may be get interviewed on podcast. Whatever it is, they're telling me what I need to do. Now, it's not all the time.
Yeah.
And we do have systems and things like Asana and programs, all the way through. But them holding me accountable is probably been one of the coolest things in the business. And I earned a lot of respect from them in doing that, because it allows them to be the best in their roles. So it's been a fun way to run a company.
It's a good way
Um,
to have, I mean, the idea of tool, no one that I've asked said their team, right? People are
mm,
thinking more, and nothing wrong with that either, like a laptop or their voice or their mind, right? But those things
right.
are important. But as the team, very essential in staying efficient, being
Yeah, I would
productive.
tell everybody is, as you if you're going the route, or you're going to grow a business, or you have, you become a manager or something in your company, anything like that, that you need to always hire for the skill sets you suck at. You know, um, I suck at technology. I got some things that I'm good at, but most tech I suck at.
Mhm.
Dude, Kevin Snow, who's my director of operations in my company, dude's been a godsend. Handles all my automations. I mean, everything you want to do, that guy's got it all. And he's brought in some amazing people as well, from Greg, who does a lot of video work and audio work and stuff for me. Just amazing. And he just geeks out on that stuff. And sometimes talking to people that geek out on their stuff, my mind just can't wrap my head around it, right? But they are really good at whatever is the asset that they geek out on. When they're so into it, one, they're always going to do more than your expectations because they
Mhm.
enjoy it and it's something they really want to do. but they have no problem calling you out when you're not holding up your end of the bargain,
Yeah.
which in my company is a standard rule. So uh, it makes it a lot of fun.
And that's why I created this podcast of Why We Work. It's so interesting to speak to people who do something that I don't, because
Right.
they're so talented, they geek out on it, and they have a wealth of knowledge to bring to the table that
Absolutely.
I will never be able to wrap my head around. And that's what's interesting about people, and the universe of people that we have to pick from, to pull from, to hire, to collaborate with. And without them, our businesses would surely fail.
Oh,
What
totally.
what is a tip you might have for people getting into work or changing their career?
Um, Go a hell of a lot bigger than you think you can. And the reason I say that is I often found myself in situations where I didn't think I could pull it off, but eventually looked at whatever it was and looked back and went, damn, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. A prime example, in between careers, I found myself corporate downsized by Cardinal Health and as part of their franchise sales team. And, my next adventure. Well, all my friends from high school were bartending and waiting tables. So I went bartending and waiting tables. And for 2 years, I lived the lifestyle of a bartender. And by God, they know how to drink, party, and every other chaos that comes with it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was around that time when I met my wife, or of course, girlfriend, fiance,
Yeah.
later wife, right?
Hmm.
And I realized that I'd gotten away from my corporate America thing. So it was time to find, as I kept telling myself, a grown up job, again. And I started changing my nighttime bartending shifts to daytime shifts, knowing that I would meet corporate executives and, have a better shot of meeting them.
Hmm.
And I was literally got hired out from behind a bar to go start a digital print division for a commercial printing company. And I didn't even know commercial printing was a thing, and here I was going to start a whole sales division for them. And the mere idea of going to take this role scared the pure living crap out of me. One, I'd never done sales like this. Two, I didn't know anything about the industry. And three, there was some politics at play that I was a thorn in an entire division inside that
Hmm.
company's side. But in doing that, led me on some of the greatest sales adventures of my life, and we grew a multi-million-dollar division there, and I learned so much about sales and the conversation and everything along there. So the biggest tip and advice is go do something way bigger than you think you can handle.
Yeah, and reach up. People are fearful. I mean, it's that
Yeah.
fear that comes into play of, and I was interviewing someone just yesterday, and in the same advice, he said if anyone ever knew the inability he had in the jobs that he was hired for, they would have really fired him. But
Oh
he
yeah.
just kept striving to do something bigger and better than what he had done before.
Well, and I think it's with everything though, right? You learn better on the fly than you do in the books. Like my one role had me doing some data analytics on the sales side of things, and I didn't know how to use Excel. I didn't know how to use Word and all these programs I needed to do. So I freaking put myself through freaking night school, going through these Excel classes and everything else. Nobody at the company knew I was doing
Yeah.
this, but I wanted that role, that position. I wanted to do all the travel and everything that came with it, so I had to go learn it. Now when I talk to them, absolutely I had all those skill sets. And I'm not saying lie to people by any
Yeah.
means, but go bigger than you think you can handle.
Well, you mentioned kind of almost against education, but right there you're saying you needed to learn something. So where do you value education, however it comes, regardless
Yeah.
if it's formal or I mean, you on the farm, you were stacking hay as a kid, but now you're running your own farm. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you had to learn and still are learning
Oh my
that you
God, yeah.
couldn't learn in school.
Absolutely. Yeah. So education is ever ongoing. You never stop learning things. The difference being is you need to go learn the things that move you forward in life,
Mhm.
not things that are just textbook oriented. So one of the reasons I suck so bad in school was I've got the attention of a gnat, and dude, I'm worse than that dog off the movie Up, and I will squirrel out in a second. You know, and so I just have such a short attention span that when I need to do something, you're not going to lecture me. You're not going to teach me by going through a book.
Mhm,
It's the kinesthetic side, go and do.
mhm.
So even like going through those Excel classes, they're up there trying to teach the theory of Excel. I flipped open the computer and just started banging on crap until I started figuring it out.
Mhm.
And then as they were teaching, I'm like, oh, I just broke that. Cool. Now we know what to do. And I think education really comes in play when you're thinking of it as a tangible asset or a tangible skill you need to learn. Let's go to like podcasting. I learned how to do a podcast from the two greatest universities on the face of the earth, and it's
Tri
Google and YouTube.
I thought you were gonna say trial and error.
No, well, those came in next, right? But yeah, I jumped on YouTube and just launch. How do you launch a podcast? What's the
Mhm,
equipment? What's the
mhm,
tools? How do you get it out? How do you get it on Apple?
mhm.
And somebody's taught it. The great thing about learning that way is you can have a hell of a lot more fun. I mean, I can't tell you, like, let's do it, launching the podcast, how many YouTube videos I watched and like, this dude is an idiot, right? And then I would flip off, I'd go find another one. I'm like, okay, I'm into this one. I'll listen to this person for a while, and figure it out. But if I was in a classroom setting, that dude's an idiot, I'm stuck for the next 45 minutes,
Yeah, turned off.
and yeah, and unless I just get up and walk out,
It's that
which,
why, right? It's
yeah,
like if you don't have the why, like why am I doing it? And if it's not applicable, then for me anyway, it was turning it off, not understanding. But when there is the why that is whether it's generated by me or not, I have a tangible reason to study this thing or to learn this
yeah,
thing, and I can see the end value for myself or for someone else who I'm doing it for.
yeah,
A couple
yeah.
more
No,
questions I have for you just because I don't want to waste your
oh,
time.
you're good. You're good. We got time. You got as much time as you need, bud.
How do you balance the idea of character and career? And the temptation for people is, I believe, I'm this role and this is who I am versus this is how I act in my work. And as you said, regardless of the type of job and the respect you gain for, I mean, you have a lot of respect for a lot of people in a lot of jobs, but specifically in the air conditioning business, when you had to get up there and you just gain so much more respect and being of integrity and having character regardless of the job being more important. How do you work that out in your own mind?
Fascinating question, and for a number of reasons, but my favorite one is, for 20 years as a sales guy, I was not who I am now, and let me explain. Um,
Nor was I.
right,
However you start there, nor was I.
right. So when I got to St. Louis, and I'm working for a company that was later bought out by Cardinal Health, so Cardinal Health essentially. I had a vice president of the company pull me aside, and he said two things to me that set the path of my corporate career. And the first thing he said, Donnie, you've got to lose the twang, the accent, and you can't say y'all. He goes, as soon as you have any sort of accent, they're going to think you're a dumb redneck or a hillbilly. You will not climb the corporate ladder. And he wasn't wrong, right? If you think about the corporate ladder, it is a very stoic, white,
Fine-tuned
old
machine.
dude,
Yeah.
yep, that's the corporate ladder. The second thing he told me is quit telling people you're a veteran. And he's like, and the reason, and he wasn't wrong because people always give me that look of, why would you ever say that about veterans and blah, blah, blah. But what he was telling me is your veteran status, like having a bachelor's degree, means jack crap in corporate America. It has literally no value. Doesn't mean you're not getting respect from people. Doesn't mean people aren't proud of what you've done. It's just irrelevant as part of your corporate career. It means nothing. So what I had to learn how to do was learn, and I've never had a really bad accent, but I had to learn how to no longer have an accent. And I had to learn that any skill set I had up until that point was mute and meant nothing.
Mhm.
That I was basically a brand new born baby and had to grow.
Mhm.
So I became what they needed me to become to find success. So I became the over the top loud guy. I came, more of a classy dresser. I, acted a certain way, carried my certain way. And there was a distinct difference between Donnie at work and Donnie at home. And those characters and the character you're talking about were just a mumbled mess because
Mhm.
the Donnie sales guy just got it done. Didn't matter how you got it done, but if I wanted to make money, if I wanted promotions, you just got it done. But the Donnie at home was not that guy.
Mm.
I always kind of look at it as, like Fonzie from Happy Days. The guy who played him, I know he just passed away a few years ago, but um, God, a
No,
great dude,
no.
great actor.
Yeah,
It'll come, but that was so not him in real life.
mhm.
Playing that character was really, really hard for him because it's not his personality, and that's kind of how I felt as a sales guy. Was I had to be that kind of Fonzie-like character, but it wasn't my natural nature. Once I launched the company, Success Champion, I had this weird epiphany that I finally get to show up as me. It's my own company. I get to write
Yeah.
my own rules. And I mean, day
You
one, go
y'all
ahead.
can't tell me nothing.
Yeah, it getting really bad now, right? um, but I mean, the day I launched my business, I put this post out, and you'll get to edit this out later. But I said, "Y'all stand by. I finally get to fully be a badass." And I literally half of my people that knew me, half were like, "Yes, awesome." The other half were like, "Do you have to say badass?" You know, and and it was such an eye-opening moment for
Yeah,
me that, and even to this day, I still get people, these old white-haired dudes all
yeah,
the time will send me messages. You get a lot more respect if you didn't cuss all the time. Well, you continue working for somebody else. I'll continue building my empire. Um, and it's just always fun to me. So, to a long answer short,
mhm,
I think you just got to show up how you authentically are
yeah,
at all times. And you need to find a position, a company, a role that will allow you to do that. So if you're into wearing the suits, the ties, the nice shoes and all that, then go get a job that fits that. But if
mhm.
you're a country boy, blue collar type of guy, probably shouldn't get into the corporate suits and roles like that because it's not going to do you a whole lot of favors.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh,
No,
my honor.
I think it's a good thing to say, and that's the thing. If someone says, "Well, you shouldn't say y'all, you shouldn't mention your service if you want to get into corporate America," then the real question should be, should I really want to get into corporate America?
That should have been the logical thought process, but it wasn't. Yeah.
Is there anything else, Donnie, that you'd like to add, especially people who are going through, one, uncertainty about a job because they're young and people are telling them they need to get it all figured out, but they don't have it all figured out. Two, maybe some people who are a little disgruntled with their position. They're just not liking where they're going. They're grinding their wheels, grinding their gears. Do you have any sort of encouragement for them as to their work?
Yeah, um, the biggest thought that comes to mind is enjoy the ride. Because at some point you're going to look back on this moment in time and go, damn, that was easy. So to bring it back kind of to the military style thing, when I went through Marine Corps boot camp, I can remember the day distinctly. It was training day 17, and I'm laying in my rack and I'm damn near at tears. And I was a guy who fought a lot in high school and did a lot of stupid. I always had a chip on my shoulder,
Hmm.
and I still carry that chip a little bit. But here I
Me too.
was, and here I'm sitting in my rack going, why the hell am I going through all this? I got guys yelling at me, telling me when to get up, telling me when to go to the bathroom, telling me to run, telling me to sit, telling me to do this. And I'm not a guy that likes being told what to do, and yet here I am having these guys, just destroying my world. And I remember distinctly having the thought of, why can't they just make me a Marine? Why the hell do I got to through that? Just, it's no big deal. Just give me the freaking title already. It's no big whoop. And I got hurt twice going through Marine Corps boot camp. So the average Marine Corps boot camp is 13 weeks. I spent 6 months in Marine Corps boot camp because I got hurt twice. And I just still remember the day I graduated. The lieutenant colonel comes out and says, "You're now all United States Marines." And I hooped and hollered with everybody else. But then the first thought that ran through my head wasn't, "Damn, I'm proud of myself." It wasn't, "Damn, I'm awesome." It was, "Damn, that was easy."
Hmm.
You know, but going through
Through the
it,
process, yeah.
yep, it sucks. It's horrible. And training day 17, I'm damn near in tears in my rack going, why am I going through all this to stand, 6 months after the fact going, damn, that's easy. I think if you always realize that whatever you're going through is only a moment,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then from there, start looking at, what can I create? What can I start? And what can I try? And even inside if you work for a company, inside that company, is explore around inside that company is, what could you try that may be more fun than what you currently do? What is somebody else doing? And ultimately that's what helped me figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, was tasting, trying, and getting involved in everything until I found the things that just brought me joy on a regular basis.
Donnie Boivin, how can people reach you? What is the best way that they can find things about, you know, Success Champion? You're a hired keynote speaker as well, helping people network in their business. How could they reach out to you?
So I have a gift for your show, and all your listeners. But one of the fun, easiest ways is just type in Success Champion, any social platform. I'm gonna pop up. You'll see all my content. Um, but if you're a person that's trying to become a business owner, entrepreneur, or you just want to put out social content, I taught a class to about 20 small business owners and taught them how to create an endless amount of social content in about 20 minutes. And because creating social content is a lot of work if you're trying to do it. So, and it's all using free tools. So, if your listeners will send the words, "I am a success champion," to 817-318-6030, I'll send them that entire training for free. So you got to send the words, "I am a success champion," to 817-318-6030. And it's a 45-minute video of me teaching a whole bunch of small business owners. So you get them asking the questions and everything through it. And it's a really cool way to figure out how to create just a ton of social content.
That's great, Donnie. I have one final
Bring
question
it.
for you. Why do you work?
Freedom. For me, that's everything. Is the harder and the more time and the more things that I can do now, the more freedoms in life that I can continue to create. And I every day that I get to wake up and continue to chase this freedom, it's just a beautiful damn day. And every day I don't have to report or work for somebody else, that's a good day as well.
Except your wife.
Oh, well, you always report to somebody.
Donnie Boivin, CEO of Success Champion and hardworking man down in Texas and his farm. I appreciate your time, kind sir.
Absolutely, brother. And let me do one last thing for your listeners. Guys, if you got any, tips, tricks, or any value out of the show, do Brian a favor and share this episode and teach somebody else how to listen to it. Being a podcaster myself, it's a lot of work to find new audience and new people to listen to show. So literally the greatest gift you can give him is by teaching somebody else how to listen to this show. The reviews, the likes, all that are beautiful. But when you literally send somebody else and said, "Hey, listen to this show," it's literally the greatest. It's almost like giving him a virtual hug. So share this out for me. It means everything as a podcaster.
Thank you very much, Donnie. Donnie Boivin, CEO of Success Champion. Have yourself a good day, sir.
You too, bud.